So I've been playing The Witness, and it's an incredibly intense experience. For those of you not familiar with The Witness, it's a puzzle exploration sort of number from the minds of Jonathan Blow and his team. And if you're not familiar with that guy, he's the avant-garde auteur responsible for Braid way back in 2008, which was the game that kicked off the whole games as art first kind of thing. Not that it was the first game that's really neither here nor there. Anyways, it seems like he's been working on The Witness since then. And if 8 years seems like a long time to make an indie puzzle game to you, then perhaps you should take a look at some of these freaking puzzles, good lord. Maybe that sounds like a complaint, but it's not. It's the best and sort of the only feature in the game. The puzzles are hard. I'm not kidding around here. I like a good puzzle, and I blazed through like Limbo and Catherine and whatever else. I don't know, Bookworm Heroes? Remember that game? But there were several, like half a dozen times in The Witness where I just stared at the screen until the monitor went to sleep. And then just walked away and found a different puzzle anyway. I literally got headaches. Advil should give me a sponsoring deal. But that's what's cool about it, right? Because it's not just that the puzzles are hard, it's that... Okay, the game does a better job of explaining than I can. If you solve a pretty easy puzzle early on, you get to watch a little video where a guy talks about, I don't know, like the importance of art in interpreting our concrete reality into our perception or some cutesy subjectivist BS. But anyways, the little old man in the thing says, maybe a good start would be to recognize
within yourself the ability to understand anything, because that ability is there, as long as it's explained clearly enough. And then go and ask for explanations.
And that pretty much sums up the whole game. I think Jonathan Blow and co. were at least as interested in the challenge the game presented for them as they were in the challenge for us, the players. See, the game teaches you to solve its puzzles in a way that's a lot like learning a language. It starts you off on the basics, like the foundational functions of the puzzles. From there it expands the puzzle's vocabulary, one puzzle at a time, until by the end of the game you can read these cryptic runes and unconsciously understand their meaning. And it does all this without ever teaching you one single thing. There's no tutorial, no hints, no dialogue actually of any kind. But by guiding you through the painstaking psychology of its puzzles and world, it somehow manages to make you understand everything with shocking clarity. And it's awesome! And it has this sense of very real, authentic discovery. Since nothing you learn is ever confirmed by the game, you're constantly going through this pattern of theorize, test, correct, and theorize again for every puzzle and rule. You can go through a dozen puzzles with an incomplete or flat-out wrong understanding of the rules, and then get knocked on your butt by a puzzle that works in a way you hadn't prepared for. And that design is mirrored in a really cool way by the island itself. The island is really just a backdrop for the gameplay. There's not really a story for it or anything, it's just sort of there. But it has its own kind of language, and the further in the game you get, the more of its patterns you recognize, and the more you can pick out the important stuff without spending like half an hour looking at a statue of a duck, when in reality, it really is just a statue of a duck. Why is this oil shaped like a people? Literally why? But this teach-through-experience design philosophy has some side effects, the most noticeable being that it messes your brain up pretty bad. Dreaming in grid space is commonplace. I've solved the pattern of the posters on my bedroom wall. Tetris becomes a logistical nightmare. But there are other side effects that are a little more insidious. First of all, this game thinks it's smarter than you, and it wants you to know it. It's just littered. Literally littered. Look at this. This is litter. With the kind of pseudo-philosophical intellect signaling that makes you wish some freshman had to wear a muzzle. I watched an entire, unedited, 45-minute-long TED Talk in this video game. That in no way enriched my life. And it's sort of ugly because the themes of the game are apparent to anyone who's paying close enough attention to solve any of the hard puzzles anyways. The game's audio logs and videos, through cute little quotes and film excerpts or whatever, beat you over the head with this idea that solving the puzzles should be its own reward and the game doesn't need to feed you gratification. Yeah, no duh! You figure that out as soon as the game doesn't reward you for solving puzzles. It's like the game places this enormous trust on you to figure out the logical puzzles, but then doesn't trust you at all whatsoever to find any meaning in them beyond that. So that's frustrating. And second of all, the game might actually be smarter than you, which is kind of embarrassing. I had such a good laugh reading people's first impressions on forums or Reddit or whatever, being like, this game's puzzles are way too vague, like I'm supposed to guess what Jonathan Blow is thinking? As soon as the rules changed from one puzzle to the next, I quit playing. Or like even just people posting pictures of a puzzle to prove that their game is glitching out and not letting them solve a puzzle when their solution is super wrong. Must sure suck to blame your shortcomings on your environment instead of focusing on finding solutions to your problems, huh? So anyways, the bad news is I'm not done with the game, so maybe it takes a turn for total crap when you get to the end, I don't know. Good news is I don't know if I ever will be done with it. Seems like finishing the game is sort of like finishing a Rubik's Cube or something. You can mix it up and start over and have a totally different experience. And sure, just like with a Rubik's Cube, once you've learned the language, it comes more naturally next time, but that doesn't make it any less fun. Also, this game has some wacky secret puzzles. I just found out that like fully half of the game's puzzles are on these big stacks of tires. I haven't even done one of those. I've got a ways to go. So long story short, if you like a good puzzle, you'll like The Witness. As long as being super pretentious isn't a deal breaker for you. I like a pretentious thing from time to time, so I thought it was awesome. Pick up some graph paper, put on some upbeat indie music for hipsters, and go to town. In parting, check out how many screenshots I took to keep track of clues.